I'm aware of all of those things, but I know he don't want to be in here, so I know if he could afford it, he'd be out.
Hello, before we even jump into this wild story, drop a comment telling me your pick for the most brutal prison or jail in the world, because after what you're about to hear, Dallas County Jail might be high on that list. Now, let's get into it.
I mean, this is the last stop of the jail for all the worst of the worst.
So here's the talk in the streets. Yella Beezy just got checked into Dallas County Jail after those heavy allegations that he ordered a hit on MO3, and people saying he's already breaking down inside. Word is he ain't built for this kind of pressure, and the walls closing in on him way faster than he expected. Sources around the situation whisper that Beezy's struggling hard behind bars, pushing for bail like his whole future hangs on it. And honestly, if you know even a little about Dallas County Jail's reputation, you already understand why everyone says this spot can turn the toughest person into a quiet thinker real fast. Dallas County Jail didn't earn the title of worst jail in Texas for nothing. The place is known for chaos, cold walls, and nonstop stress, and Beezy's time locked in there is sounding like a whole nightmare as the rap world watches in shock. Fans and industry heads are still trying to process the arrest, and now news leaking about what he's facing inside just makes the whole story hit harder.
A lot of guys, they still, do dope. They run the dope houses from inside the jails. A lot of kingpins, so it is an important item inside the jail.
Inside that jail, life is rough, loud, and overwhelming. No fancy lifestyle, no comfort, no love. For someone used to bright stages and luxury living, switching to steel bunks and concrete floors is like falling off a cliff. Overcrowding is insane, with cells meant for 8 turning into tight boxes for up to 40 people. It's more than uncomfortable. It's straight up survival mode. Security runs the entire building, and comfort isn't even part of the conversation. The air is freezing like someone turned the AC to max just to test who can handle the cold. The noise never stops. Voices, doors, metal, echoing nonstop, so much that inmates stuff toilet paper in their ears trying to block it out. Privacy, that word, don't exist in there.
I mean, a lot of people in here keep it real nasty. They don't really clean as often. They don't care. I mean, this is the last stop of the jail for all the worst of the worst.
The SRT special response teams run the jail like a military base. Their inspections feel humiliating, with prisoners on their knees in underwear while guards tear through every little thing they own. Control is the only goal, and dignity gets left outside the door. For 5 straight years, Dallas County Jail been getting blasted for failing state inspections, and the issues just keep stacking up. The Texas Commission on Jail Standards keeps putting pressure on them, flagging problem after problem, but nothing truly gets fixed. And that leaves everyone inside dealing with the fallout every single day. Take February 2022. Inspectors spent 4 days inside the jail, and what they found was straight up disturbing. One major issue was how staff handled people in crisis. On paper, it looked like officers were watching closely, but surveillance footage showed something totally different.
And he has houses in other states, correct?
And I'm not aware of that.
Are you aware of him paying and helping to support other individuals in the family and also extended family and friends?
I'm not into his business like that.
The logs didn't match the reality at all, raising real questions about safety and what's actually happening behind locked doors. And it doesn't stop there. Around 40 housing unit doors were busted, some of them broken for so long that inmates were using contraband to jam them open or closed.
You agree with me that your grandson is substantially well off, correct?
He might used to be, but if he could make a $2 million bond, he'd be out.
Would you agree with me, though, that there's a difference between can, want to, and choosing not to?
I'm aware of all of those things, but I know he don't want to be in here, so I know if he could afford it, he'd be out.
That's a major security risk, and the fact it stayed unfixed just shows how deep the problems run. Then there's the burning smell in the North Tower. Something staff tried to blame on K2 being smoked, or inmates burning coffee grounds to mask the scent. Either way, the situation sounded messy, risky, and ignored for too long. Whatever the reason behind that constant burning smell, one thing was clear. Everyone inside that building was breathing in toxic smoke on a regular basis, and that's terrifying. Even crazier, inspectors didn't demand any fast action, meaning inmates and staff just kept inhaling who knows what while the clock kept ticking. Hygiene problems? Those were real too, and they were getting exposed left and right. In the West Tower, things were so unorganized that laundry workers weren't even swapping out clothes or linens for inmates in crisis care. Instead, floor officers had to jump in and handle it themselves, which is a clear sign the whole system is running on shaky legs. When basic routines fall apart like that, it tells you the whole operation is one bad day away from completely falling apart. And then there's the South Tower generators, a whole different disaster. Back in March and April of 2021, they were supposed to go through standard testing, but that never went down. If the power ever cuts out for real, there's no guarantee those backup generators will even kick on. And that's a dangerous situation for everyone trapped inside. It's like watching a storm build and knowing the roof won't hold. Overcrowding is hitting new levels too. Ongoing renovations mean fewer places to put people, so beds are disappearing fast. The county is already talking about temporary setups just to keep up with the bodies coming in. Add in AC failures, broken units, and scorching heat or freezing cold, and suddenly this place feels less like a jail and way more like pure survival mode. Every hallway and every cell becomes a test of patience and endurance. And once you turn to the legal system for relief, things only get messier. Inmates trying to defend themselves barely get time in the law library. Legal mail, which by law is supposed to stay private, gets opened without them even being in the room. Motions stack up and move slow, like the whole process is designed to drag out until people lose hope. It's easy to see why so many say the system here feels like a trap with no exit. Outside the conditions inside the jail, the streets buzzing with another rumor that Yella Beezy might be too broke to bond out. At first, his bond was set at a massive $2 million, showing just how serious the charges were. But then came that emotional moment in court when Bezy's grandmother, Alma Jean Alexander, stepped up to the stand. She pushed back hard on the prosecutor's claims, insisting Bezy wasn't nearly as wealthy as they tried to make him look. Her testimony shook the room. Her words, backed by other family members, pressured the court to reconsider everything. Judge Gracie Lewis eventually ruled in Bezy's favor, dropping his bond to $750,000, but the judge made sure to attach strict conditions. Bezy is forbidden from contacting any victims or witnesses, and he was given a sharp warning to take the financial disclosure process seriously. One wrong move, and everything could snap right back. Prosecutors, though, weren't backing down quietly. They worked hard to paint a picture of a man with serious financial power, someone who could vanish if he wanted to. They brought up his bulletproof Denali, calling it a symbol of wealth and status. They pointed to the $870,000 he had in his accounts in 2020, arguing these numbers revealed someone capable of plotting and funding something major. It was their way of saying he had the resources to make moves. Now, capital murder is not just another charge, it's one of the heaviest accusations someone can face. And with everything piling up around this case, the tension is only getting higher. Capital murder is one of the heaviest charges in the entire system, and Texas does not play with this kind of case, not even a little bit. If Yella Beezy gets convicted, he could be looking at a future that's nothing like the spotlight he used to chase. Under Texas law, a capital murder conviction leaves only two possible outcomes: life in prison, with no chance of parole, or in certain situations, the death penalty.
But wait a minute, but people think you the person that killed Mo3, man.
That's how high the stakes are for him right now. Texas uses this charge for cases involving the killing of police officers, firefighters, children under 10, murders for hire, or killings that happen during another felony like kidnapping or retaliation. In Bezy's situation, prosecutors are claiming he financed a hit on fellow rapper Mo3, turning the whole thing into a murder for hire case, and that is exactly the type of qualifier that pushes everything into capital territory. For Bezy, this isn't just a legal battle, it's a fight for the rest of his life.
They think you did it.
It's a million life things. I ain't got no tattoo on my knee. I'm not being tall. And I'm married so with this.
Just to show you how serious this type of charge is, let's look at another case, Lil Durk's murder for hire situation, which shook the rap world the moment it went public. Durk Devontae Banks, widely known as Lil Durk, was taken into custody in South Florida, and the U.S. Marshals confirmed the arrest themselves. This wasn't. Some rumor, this was a full-on federal criminal complaint filed in California accusing him of orchestrating a murder-for-hire setup. It shocked everyone watching. To understand it, you gotta rewind. The roots of this wild story go back to a nasty feud with someone named TB. But things got even more heated after the tragic death of Durk's close friend, Davon Bennett, also known as King Von, on November 6, 2020. Von was a major part of Durk's SOT family, someone deeply tied to the movement, and his death hit everyone hard. He was gunned down by someone connected to TB, sparking a chain reaction that sent emotions and tensions to another level. Word in the streets spread fast, people saying Durk placed a bounty on TB's head, driven by grief, anger, and a need for retaliation after losing Von. Whether it was real or rumor, that talk had the whole scene buzzing nonstop. And when street feuds mix with money, fame, and heartbreak, things always get dangerous. Fast forward nearly 2 years later, and the situation exploded. On August 19, 2022, several OTF members, allegedly acting under Durk's instructions, moved in for a deadly strike. Multiple associates tracked TB to a gas station in Los Angeles, and that's when things turned violent. Shots were fired at TB's vehicle, with at least 18 rounds ripping through the scene. The moment was chaos. But the tragedy didn't stop there. A family member of TB, someone who wasn't supposed to be part of any of this, got caught in the crossfire and lost their life in broad daylight. And all of this happened at a crowded intersection where countless innocent people were driving, standing, or working. The district attorney Martin Estrada described it as a cold-blooded murder showing absolutely no regard for human life. His words hit the courtroom like a hammer. Now Durk and 5 others are staring down serious charges: murder, murder for hire, and conspiracy to commit murder for hire resulting in death. And prosecutors didn't stop there. They re-saying the people who carried out the shooting were funded with money connected directly to Durk and the OTF circle. The claims go even further, allegedly. 5 people were flown from Chicago to Los Angeles the day before everything went down, supposedly prepared to take out TB. That's the level of planning prosecutors are alleging. And the details keep getting deeper. Prosecutors also say Durk made a calculated choice by having one of his associates book one-way flights for the alleged hitmen, using names with no connection back to him. No names, no trail, no links. At least that's what they were aiming for. But as people say all the time, when there's smoke, there's usually something behind it.
Nobody.
Right.
That was it.
Right.
I ain't never been no attention to nobody.
Right after the shooting, investigators carried out search warrants on properties tied to OTF, pulling back the curtain on what they called a highly organized and deeply planned operation. Every detail added another layer to the intensity of the case, showing how fast things can turn from music and fame to courtroom battles and life-changing accusations. Durk's first court appearance went down at the C. Clyde Atkins U.S. Courthouse in Miami, and the vibe was tense from the jump. His lawyer, Alec Ubita, played everything close to the chest, refusing to reveal a single extra detail as cameras and reporters circled the building. With his arraignment set for the Los Angeles federal court next.
Let me say this first. Rainwater, my manager, it's not no street. Let me say it again. Rainwater, my manager, is not no street. He graduated high school and went to college, sir. Sir, you get what I'm saying?
The pressure on Durk is hitting a level most people will never experience, because if he's convicted, he's staring at life behind bars. This entire legal storm has thrown a massive shadow over his career, a career that just months earlier had reached new highs. Remember, he scored a Grammy earlier this year for Best Melodic Rap Performance for All My Life with J. Cole. But as of December 2024, things flipped dramatically when unsealed court documents linked him to a second murder-for-hire plot tied to the January 2022 shooting of Stephen Mack in Chicago. That reveal shook the industry. Durk is officially set to stand trial in October 2025. He has already been denied bail, leaving him to sit in custody while the clock ticks. What is unsettling is how this connects back to the MO3 case. MO3 was killed back in 2020, and it took nearly 5 years for prosecutors to suddenly link Yella Beezy to the murder. With Bay and MO3 having a long public history of beef, it raises serious questions. What changed? What new evidence surfaced? And if someone already cooperated earlier, why is Bay facing these accusations now? The situation feels cloudy, messy, and suspicious. Now let us bring it back to that heartbreaking day in November 2020 when rapper Mo.3 real name Melvin Noble, was tragically killed on a Dallas highway. His death didn't just hit the music world, it shook the city to its core. Mo3 wasn't just another name in the rap game, he was a rising star, a voice people connected with, someone who built a movement that felt real. That morning started like any other, but it turned into something nobody could have imagined. Mo3 was driving along Interstate 35 when he realized someone was following him. As things escalated, he tried to escape, jumping out of his car and running down the busy highway with fear and adrenaline pushing him forward. What came next didn't even feel real. It felt like something out of a movie, except this was happening in front of real witnesses, in real time. The suspect chased him on foot, closing the distance fast, and then opened fire in front of stunned drivers and bystanders. Gunshots echoed across the highway, and Mo3 collapsed, fatally wounded right there on the concrete. The fact that this happened in broad daylight, in the middle of one of the busiest stretches of road in Dallas, left people in pure shock. Authorities had no choice but to jump into action immediately, because the boldness of the attack showed this was random. This was personal. Speculation exploded instantly. Some believed it was tied to Mo3's long-running street conflicts, while others thought it was a targeted move driven by jealousy, rivalry, or old problems from his past. Either way, everyone knew this wasn't something simple, this was something deep. Dallas police launched a full investigation and released images of the suspect wearing a ski mask shortly before the shooting took place. Those images became a key piece of evidence, leading to the identification of Quandontrell White, a 22-year-old with a history of trouble. White was already out on bond for a felony gun charge and a misdemeanor evading arrest case when Mo3 was killed, which made things even more intense. As detectives dug deeper, more evidence surfaced placing White near the highway before, during, and after the attack. Surveillance footage, witness statements, and digital tracking tied him to the scene, making it clear he was the gunman that day. The story that emerged was chilling. Mo3 was driving peacefully until White began following him, pushing him to flee for his life. But White didn't back off for a second. He chased Mo3 on foot, firing multiple shots that ultimately ended the rapper's life as horrified drivers watched from their cars. The violence didn't stop there. Another person was wounded during the gunfire, highlighting just how reckless and dangerous the whole situation was. That moment became one of the most shocking events Dallas had seen in years. Following the shooting, Dallas Police Chief Renee Hall stepped forward and openly acknowledged the spike in violence hitting the city hard. Things were getting out of control, and she reached out to the FBI for backup as the streets grew more dangerous by the week. Then came December 9, 2020, the day everything shifted again when Quan White was taken into federal custody, facing murder charges and possession of a firearm as a convicted felon. The evidence against him wasn't shaky. It was solid enough to push the case straight toward indictment. White's arrest came with heavy drama too. Federal officers and Dallas police finally caught him in Oak Cliff after he tried to escape on a dirt bike before breaking into a run on foot. When they grabbed him, he had a 9mm pistol tucked in his pocket, stacking even more charges onto a situation already drowning in legal trouble. By then, the case was turning into something far larger than anyone expected. Even though Khan spoke up from prison and even gave an interview insisting he was NT, the one who shot Mo3, things took yet another turn. The U.S. Attorney's Office revealed that a known associate of White's 27-year-old Devin Morris Brown was also facing federal charges tied to drugs and firearms. A search of Brown's home uncovered a stolen assault-style rifle, synthetic cannabinoids, methamphetamine, and other illegal items. That discovery added a whole new layer to the puzzle. Investigators stayed quiet about the full relationship between White and Brown. But one motive they pointed to was personal. Mo3 was getting close to a woman connected to Brown. When Mo3 dropped a Facebook video with her, it lit a fuse Brown couldn't ignore. His frustration grew day by day, and before long, he was hitting up a witness looking for Mo3's location. This wasn't some random grudge. This was turning into a mission with dangerous intentions. As the investigation continued, it came out that Brown and White were linked through a series of phone calls, including on the day of the shooting. Even with evidence stacking up, White tried distancing himself, denying any connection to Brown, and even claiming he couldn't remember Brown's number. But 5 years later, as investigators pieced every detail together, A darker picture began forming, one that pointed toward a planned attack, not a spontaneous act. According to court documents, Yella Beezy allegedly called the shots, hiring hitman Quan White to take Mo3 out. The motive remains unclear, but the pieces that have surfaced so far paint a story that feels cold, calculated, and intentionally planned. As more details leak, the aftermath of Mo3's tragic death keeps unfolding in unexpected directions, making people question how deep the connections really go and who else may have been involved behind the scenes. Then came the part that shocked everybody following the case. Just days after Mo3 was killed in broad daylight, something strange happened, something that instantly caught investigators' attention. On November 11, 2020, Mo3 lost his life, and on November 13, 2020, Yella Beezy withdrew $40,000 from his personal bank account. The timing was impossible to ignore, and authorities immediately flagged it as a major clue. They're now digging into why that withdrawal happened exactly when it did, and what it might have been for. Why would anyone rush to pull out such a massive amount of money right after Mo3's tragic death? That's the question investigators keep circling around as they try to understand Beezy's mindset in those critical days. Witnesses came forward claiming Beezy looked unusually tense before that withdrawal, acting jumpy and restless like something heavy was weighing on him. Then the surveillance footage added even more mystery. It showed Beezy walking into the bank, glancing around, looking over his shoulder, moving like somebody who felt eyes on him. Now that footage is in the hands of authorities, and they re-scanning every frame to figure out whether there is something deeper hiding in Beezy's behavior. A key witness preparing to testify claims they overheard a conversation where Beezy allegedly talked about payments connected to Mo3's murder. If that testimony holds up, prosecutors believe it reinforces their argument that Beezy had both the motive and the financial muscle to make something dangerous happen. Beezy's financial situation is now under a microscope. Prosecutors highlight his assets, the bulletproof Denali, strong bank account, claiming these aren't just signs of success, but indicators he could be a flight risk. And inside that courtroom, another explosive piece of evidence is being played. A video of Quandon Trell White, the alleged hitman, chasing Mo3 on Interstate 35. White is seen running him down and shooting with brutal accuracy, leaving 44 shell casings scattered across the highway. The violence was extreme, turning the freeway into a crime scene no one could ignore. But here's the question haunting everyone. If Beezy really orchestrated this, why take a risk so massive? Knowing he and Mo3 had a long public history of tension, why step into something this dangerous? Prosecutors argue it was either arrogance or a belief that he could move without leaving a trace. But with the case unfolding the way it is, that belief, if true, wasn't grounded in reality. The beef between Yella and Mo3 is a complicated story full of rivalry, ambition, and heartbreak, a saga that dug its roots deep into the Dallas music scene. Both came from the same city, both climbed the ladder fast, and as their careers rose, so did the friction. What began as two artists chasing the same dream eventually turned into a battle for influence, fans, and respect. Their tension wasn't just industry competition, felt personal. Their rivalry can be traced all the way back to their early days, when both were shining as rising stars in the Dallas rap scene. As they gained more traction, their audiences began to overlap, and the competition built naturally. It started as regular hip-hop competitiveness, but it didn't stay harmless. Soon, subtle jabs turned into open shots through music and social media. Both Mo3 and Beezy knew how to talk their talk, and they didn't shy away from it. One Reddit user summed it up by saying, "Yeah, I know Mo3's head started getting, and he was talking a lot of shit on social media. Just didn't know if that was 100% what got him killed." That comment reflects what many fans believed, that Mo3's outspoken personality may have poured fuel on a fire that was already burning. But the true spark behind the deadly outcome is still debated heavily, even today. The feud hit an even darker stage in 2018 after the tragic death of Raleigh Payette, Mo3's friend and a well-loved comedian. Raleigh publicly disrespected Yella Beezy, calling out his authenticity and questioning his Oak Cliff ties, which only amped up the tension. And then something unexpected happened. The very next day after Raleigh's death, Yella Beezy was shot at in a drive-by in Lewisville, Texas. Many immediately wondered whether it was retaliation or something connected to the beef swirling around both camps. That shooting shifted everything. It marked a moment where the tensions no longer felt like music industry drama. They felt like something that could cross real lines and cause real harm. Even with everything happening around them, both artists publicly denied having any real problems with each other, trying to keep things calm on the surface. But anyone watching closely could see the cracks forming long before tragedy struck. But even with all the noise surrounding them, Mo3 himself kept brushing off the idea that he and Bey were locked in some deep feud. In a 2019 VLAD TV interview, Mo3 straight up said there was nothing between them, insisting the media twisted it into something bigger than it really was. He made it sound like everybody else was inflating tension that he didn't even claim as his own. Still, the public wasn't letting that narrative go. The idea of a beef had already taken on a life of its own, especially after moments like the alleged assault on Mo3's manager Brandon Rainwater in January 2020. Reports say Rainwater was attacked by Bey and his crew at a Dallas strip club, leaving him with a dislocated hip. That incident didn't just leave Rainwater injured. It poured gasoline on the rumors and made fans believe something darker was really happening. Things got even worse when Bey's crew allegedly bragged about the assault in a video, adding a whole new layer of tension to the situation. Meanwhile, Yella Beezy stayed quiet and cryptic, dropping vague comments and rarely giving direct answers about Mo3. In a 2024 interview with Ken Event, when asked about Mo3's death, Bey responded with, "What was the point?" A cold and dismissive answer that only made people think there was still unresolved bad blood between them. But then, in another interview, Bey switched his tone completely. He admitted Mo3's death had an impact, saying it was a big hit. That was a big impact. That moment hinted at something deeper, maybe even respect, contradicting the earlier dismissive comments that fueled so many rumors. Their relationship clearly wasn't simple, and every interview showed a different side of it. Their story got even more complicated when you look at their individual struggles. In 2018, Yella Beezy was shot 3 times while driving, a moment that stunned the Dallas music scene. But Mo3's response wasn't emotional or dramatic. Instead, he shrugged it off, saying, "You gotta stay out of the way to get hit up every day." That comment surprised a lot of people because it didn't spark more drama. It just added to the mystery of what their dynamic truly was. Even with the public convinced there was tension, both Mo3 and Yella Beezy kept trying to downplay it. Mo3 said over and over that he had no rap beef with anyone, explaining, "My job is to report like the news," framing himself as a storyteller instead of someone chasing conflict. Bey also brushed off the idea of serious problems, saying any issues were just casual disagreements, and that even if they ever squashed things, they'd still never be on the same side. The full truth behind their relationship is still hidden, wrapped up in contradictions, mixed messages, and moments that don't fully line up. But what is clear is that Mo3's death left a permanent mark on the Dallas rap culture and on everyone watching from the sidelines. Whether their rivalry was driven by real animosity or just competition gone too far, it stands as a powerful reminder of how fast things can spiral into something darker in the music world, especially when pride, fame, and ego start crossing lines. Hiring someone like Quan Dontrell White, a man already carrying a long criminal history, would be a reckless move for anyone, let alone someone with Bey's level of fame and visibility. And now, with a witness allegedly willing to testify about a financial transaction, the mystery digs even deeper. Every new detail adds another twist, making the entire case feel like a puzzle with pieces still missing. Bey's past legal run-ins don't make his situation any easier. In 2018, he survived a shooting while driving on State Highway 121 in Louisville, a moment that shook the entire Dallas music scene. It was a close call, and it put him on the radar long before this current case. Then, in February 2021, he was arrested in Dallas County for unlawful firearm possession, another blow that kept him tied to legal trouble. Later that same year, he faced even more charges in Collin County, including sexual assault and child endangerment. But Collin County records confirmed that the case was closed without any conviction against Bey. Dallas County records also show that the firearm charge was later dismissed. So while the accusations stacked up in headlines, many of them didn't hold up in court, leaving people divided about who Bey really is and what he's truly capable of. And then, in July 2023, Bay's name appeared again, this time in a civil lawsuit filed in Harris County. The filing claimed that Chris Brown and members of his entourage assaulted 4 men after a show at Dickies Arena in Fort Worth, and Bay was mentioned in the paperwork. But according to Bay's lawyer, he had no contact with the plaintiffs at all. Once again, his name was floating around something chaotic, even though he wasn't directly tied to the incident. It's wild to imagine someone with Yella Beezy's status, resources, and reach putting himself anywhere near situations this risky. A man with that level of success had everything to protect his career, his family, his freedom. And yet here he stands in the middle of one of Texas' biggest and most complicated murder cases. Whether he's innocent, misunderstood, targeted, or involved, that's for the court to decide, not the streets. What this story shows is how fast life can flip when fame, pressure, and old rivalries collide. The world of music can lift someone up overnight, but the wrong choices, the wrong company, or the wrong moment can pull everything apart just as quickly. The death of MO3 changed Dallas forever, and now this entire case stands as a reminder of how fragile that line is between success and downfall. If you want to dive deeper into more shocking cases, hidden stories, and raw true crime breakdowns, make sure you check out the next video and don't forget to subscribe. More documentaries about prisons, criminals, mafia stories, unexplained mysteries, and dark history are coming your way.